Your mind is not neutral. It doesn't just absorb information and store it passively. It forms patterns. It builds loops. It makes assumptions. It develops beliefs about what's possible, about who you are, about what you're capable of. And most of those beliefs weren't chosen by you. They were installed slowly, repeatedly, unconsciously. From the moment you were born, you've been exposed to ideas through family, school, media, conversations, culture that shaped your worldview. They didn't ask for permission. They didn't announce themselves as programming. They just sank in, and over time, they became your normal. You believe what you believe not because you examined every thought and decided to keep it, but because repetition built familiarity. And familiarity built identity. That's how the brain works. It forms beliefs based on what it hears the most, not on what's true. And that means if you want to become successful, truly successful, you don't just need to learn new skills. You need to reprogram your mind. That means you need to brainwash yourself, not in the sinister, manipulative sense, but in the intentional, disciplined, powerful sense. You need to wash out the old patterns, the doubt, the hesitation, the fear, the guilt, the mediocrity, and install new ones, new beliefs, new defaults, new mental structures that make success inevitable. Because success doesn't start with money or titles or achievements. It starts with identity. It starts with how you see yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you respond to pressure, how you handle failure. All of that is internal. All of that is mindset. And all of that can be conditioned if you're willing to do the work. You don't rise above your thinking. You don't outperform your self-image. You don't become something you don't already believe yourself to be. Your habits follow your beliefs. Your consistency follows your beliefs. Your standards follow your beliefs. So if you want to change your results, you start there. You start by brainwashing yourself on purpose. Because if you don't, the world will keep doing it for you. Every time you turn on the news, every time you drift, every time you engage in conversations that reinforce limitation, doubt, scarcity, it's all programming. And if you're not actively leading your mind, you're passively surrendering to whatever narrative is loudest. You take control of your mind the same way you take control of your body, through daily habits, through consistency, through inputs, through repetition. You feed it what it needs. You eliminate what weakens it. You train it to focus, to believe, to persist, to dominate. That's not hype. That's structure. That's process. The first daily habit to brainwash yourself for success is to control the first thoughts you allow into your mind every morning. Not just what you think, but what you allow to shape your internal narrative before the world gets a chance to infect it. Most people wake up and immediately hand their mental space to chaos. They let randomness shape their state, and they wonder why they feel behind before they even begin. Your mind is most impressionable in the first few minutes of the day. It's in a transition state, highly absorbent, highly sensitive, and completely programmable. That means whatever you feed it early is going to echo. It's going to plant seeds that grow throughout your day. And if you're not deliberate with what you feed it, someone else will feed it for you. You cannot afford to start your day on defense. You cannot afford to give the most programmable window of your brain to the lowest value inputs. You must build a pattern of ownership, a pattern of clarity, a pattern of mental dominance that begins before the noise gets in. That means waking up and thinking thoughts that are aligned with your future, not your past. It means speaking to yourself like the person you are becoming, not the person you've been. It means building mental structure before the world throws you into its agenda. You must become the architect of your internal state. And the blueprint begins the moment your eyes open. Start with breath. Before you reach for the remote, take 3 deep, conscious breaths. Breathe in intention. Breathe out doubt. Get still. Get present. Feel your body. Feel the weight of the day coming toward you. But meet it with calm. Meet it with control. Meet it with the energy of someone who doesn't flinch. Next, use words. You cannot think your way into a new life without speaking new truths. What you say out loud becomes reinforcement. What you declare becomes architecture. So speak, not casually, not weakly, with force, with decision, with authority. I own this day. I lead my mind. I operate with discipline. I focus. I building. I rise. Say it until your nervous system believes it. Say it until it no longer sounds like hype and starts to feel like truth. Your brain responds to repetition. And that means the more you declare who you are becoming, the faster it adapts. You are not lying to yourself. You are creating alignment. Because belief is not a feeling. It is a decision that gets confirmed by action. So you set a standard every single morning, not when it's convenient, not when you feel good, daily. No excuses, no negotiation. Because brainwashing is about intensity, and intensity requires consistency. This is how you begin to override old programming. You install new identity through sound, through movement, through declaration. After breath and declaration, you get clear, not reactive, clear. What are the 3 most important actions today that move your life forward? Not 10, not 20. 3. That simplicity creates focus. It forces you to choose impact over busyness. Most people confuse movement with momentum. They fill their day with tasks, but none of them build anything. But you're different. You don't build your day on what feels urgent. You build it on what creates transformation. You decide early what matters most. You write it down. You say it out loud. You visualize completing it. And now your brain has direction, purpose, drive. Because success is not created in big moments. It is built in the daily decision to act with intention. And when you do this day after day, declare, direct, act, you begin to reshape your brain. Your identity starts to match your ambition. Your internal language becomes your internal truth. The excuses that used to show up first thing in the morning don't feel as powerful anymore. The craving for comfort gets quieter. The urge to delay fades because you have taken control of your first thought. Do not underestimate this. The first thought is the root. Everything else grows from there. If your first thought is aligned, your day is sharp. If your first thought is reactive, emotional, weak, your day is built on sand. You must begin from strength, from clarity, from control. And if this feels awkward at first, good. That means it's working. That means the old programming is being interrupted. Your mind will resist in the beginning. It will try to pull you back to the familiar. This is silly. This doesn't matter. That voice, that's the virus. And your job is to install a firewall. So you repeat every day, no matter what. Not because you feel like it, but because this is who you are now. Someone who leads the mind. Someone who doesn't allow the first thought to be chosen by circumstance. Someone who speaks, who breathes, who directs with precision. That is the foundation. And without it, everything else will crumble. You are brainwashing yourself for success. One morning at a time, one decision at a time. one internal command at a time. That's not motivational fluff. That's strategic design. You are reconditioning the mind through repetition, through structure, through leadership. And the first thought of the day is the first brick in the wall. The second daily habit to brainwash yourself for success is protecting your mental environment like your life depends on it, because it does. The inputs you allow into your mind determine the quality of your thoughts. The quality of your thoughts determine your self-image. Your self-image dictates your behavior. And your behavior, repeated consistently, becomes your life. Most people are not thinking for themselves. They are repeating, recycling, echoing. Their thoughts are not original. They are inherited from news, from friends, from gossip, from fear, from limitation, from culture, from the background noise of their environment. And then they wonder why they feel stuck, overwhelmed, anxious, confused. You cannot build a powerful life in a weak mental ecosystem. You cannot cultivate discipline in an environment of chaos. You cannot expect to rise while surrounding yourself with messages that drag you down. Your mind is like a garden. It is always absorbing, always listening, always shaping itself around the inputs you provide. And if you are not intentional, if you do not take full command of what gets in, your mind will grow weeds, self-doubt, comparison, scarcity, bitterness, indecision, and those weeds will take over. So you must become aggressive about what you allow in. You must become a gatekeeper, not casually, not when you remember, every single day, because brainwashing is not something that happens once. It is the product of exposure and repetition and reinforcement. That means you don't just try to stay positive. You saturate your mind with clarity, with excellence, with leadership, with the thoughts, stories, words, and energy that match the life you're building. You flood your system with what empowers you, what sharpens you, what activates your higher self. This is not optional. It is essential. If you do not dominate your mental space, it will be dominated for you. And you cannot afford that. You cannot afford to build your life on a foundation of doubt. You cannot afford to move forward while carrying beliefs that were handed to you by people who settled. So you audit. You ask, what am I listening to? Who am I listening to? What is the dominant energy of the conversations I allow? What do I feed my mind during idle time? Because idle time is never neutral. The brain craves stimulation. And if you are not feeding it consciously, it will drift. And in that drift, it will replay the old tapes, the insecurities, the rejections, the stories that no longer serve you, the patterns that you are trying to outgrow. That is why you must interrupt the drift. That is why you must interrupt the passive loop. That is why this is not a casual habit. It is a lifeline. You begin replacing noise with intentional signal. That might mean removing 1 hour of entertainment and replacing it with 1 hour of education. Not education for credentials, but education for expansion. You begin feeding your mind what it's truly hungry for. Truth, not opinion. Purpose, not distraction. Clarity, not chaos. That might mean writing out your values every morning, reminding yourself of what you believe in, not what the world believes, not what trends say, what you stand for, what you're building, who you are. Because every message that contradicts those values is an attack on your vision. You build a daily habit of listening to your highest self through reading, through reflection, through messages that align with your goals. You don't just consume information, you consume transformation. You don't just fill your head, you direct your heart. And you start to notice a shift. You start feeling less pulled by urgency. You start hearing your own voice more clearly. The chatter gets quieter. The distractions lose their shine because your focus has been reconditioned. Your standards have been reinstalled. Your environment is now serving you, not stealing from you. And this isn't about being a monk. This isn't about silence and solitude. It's about leadership. It's about creating conditions that empower your best decisions. Most people think they're weak, but they're not. They're just malnourished. Their mind is starving for alignment. And all they've been feeding it is junk. But when you start feeding it strength, things change fast. You get bolder, quieter inside, louder in your purpose, because your thoughts are no longer echoing other people's fears. They're reflecting your own intention. You have to remember, most of the people around you are not trained. They are not leading themselves. They are surviving. They are reacting. They are still looping the programming they inherited. And if you let that in, it will contaminate you. Not all at once, slowly, subtly, repeatedly. So you take full control. You design your inputs. You create boundaries. You exit conversations that are laced with limitation. You stop explaining your elevation to people who don't understand discipline. You don't lower your frequency to meet comfort. You raise the room with your consistency. And over time, your environment begins to shift. Your circle tightens. Your voice strengthens. Your inner world becomes the authority, not the outside noise. That is what brainwashing really is. It is building an inner world so strong that the outer world has no power over it. And you build that inner world one day at a time, one decision at a time, one conversation at a time. You lead yourself. You saturate yourself with strength. You filter your inputs like your future depends on it, because it does. The third daily habit to brainwash yourself for success is repetition of your highest identity, not the one you inherited, not the one built on fear, the one you are choosing, the one aligned with the life you are building, the one that will carry you through resistance, through setbacks, through everything that used to make you quit. Most people never become who they were meant to be, not because they lack talent, but because they never programmed themselves to think like their future self. They keep playing old tapes. They keep reacting from childhood patterns. They keep making decisions from outdated wiring, and then they wonder why they feel stuck. You will never outperform your identity. Your brain has to believe it before your life will reflect it. And the way your brain builds belief is simple. Through exposure and repetition. Not once, not occasionally, daily. Because whatever you repeat becomes familiar. And whatever becomes familiar begins to feel like truth. That's why most people believe in their limitations. Not because they've studied them. Not because they've examined the evidence, but because they've repeated them. I'm just not confident. I've never been consistent. I'm not good with discipline. Say it enough, and it becomes a command, a self-fulfilling prophecy, a mental contract that shapes every behavior. So if you want to brainwash yourself for success, you have to rewrite those contracts. You have to write a new story, and you have to tell it to yourself until it becomes your default. You don't wait until it feels true. You don't wait until you see the results. You decide who you are, and you reinforce it like your life depends on it. That starts with language. Your words create containers, and those containers hold identity. That's why you don't say, I'm trying to be disciplined. You say, I am someone who follows through no matter how I feel. You don't say, I'm working on becoming confident. You say, I walk with clarity and conviction because I trust my direction. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is act like it until you believe it. Because the belief will come. Your nervous system will catch up. But you have to go first. You have to speak from your future. You have to act from your future. You have to start building the track that the belief will ride on. That's why this is a daily habit. You do it every morning, every night. You write it, you speak it, you read it out loud. You move your body while saying it. You make it real. You saturate your nervous system with the new identity until your subconscious starts following its lead. And the key here is precision. Your identity statements can't be vague. I want to be successful is not identity. I dominate my day by attacking my top 3 priorities without excuse is identity. I'm trying to be better is not identity. I train my mind and body every single day because greatness is built in the repetition is identity. You write these statements with power, with clarity, and you link them to behaviors. Because identity without behavior is empty. But when your words and your actions match, you begin to build something that no one can take from you. This doesn't mean you'll always feel like that version of yourself. You won't. Some days you'll wake up tired. Some days you'll feel like a fraud. That's normal, but that's exactly why you need the identity habit. Because when your emotions waver, your conditioning holds the line. When life punches you, you don't default to panic. You default to programming. And if that programming is strong, if it's been reinforced daily, you don't break. You adjust. You stabilize. You return to alignment because you've trained yourself to return to alignment. And the more you live this way, the more your external world starts to reflect your internal blueprint. People start responding to you differently. Opportunities start showing up. You start making moves that the old version of you would have talked yourself out of. But you don't celebrate too soon. You don't ease up. You double down. You keep repeating the identity. Because every level of your life will require a new version of you. Every breakthrough you want will be blocked by the old wiring unless you keep building the new. This is how high performers live. They don't wait for identity to show up. They decide it, and they repeat it until there's no more friction, until it becomes instinct, until it's not what they do, it's who they are. So write your new standard, define your new rules, speak your future, make it specific, make it powerful, and reinforce it like it's your new oxygen. Because once your mind believes it, your life will start to align with it. The 4th daily habit to brainwash yourself for success is aggressively guarding your language. Not just what you say out loud, but what you whisper to yourself. Your language is not just expression, it's instruction. It tells your nervous system how to feel, how to act, how to believe. It shapes the emotional tone of your decisions. It frames every experience. And over time, it becomes identity. Most people speak weakness into their day before they even take their first step. This is going to be a long one. I'm exhausted. I just can't catch a break. That's just how I am. And then they wonder why nothing changes, why their habits don't stick, why their growth stalls. They are programming their mind to expect struggle, and the mind obeys. You don't get what you want. You get what your language tells you to expect. And if you're not intentional about your words, you will default to the language of your past. You'll talk like someone who's surviving. You'll talk like someone who doubts. You'll talk like someone who is waiting for the outside world to change before they can. But that's not you anymore. You are not speaking from history. You are speaking from your future. You are not narrating your limits. You are reinforcing your rise. And that starts with catching your default phrases and replacing them with precision. Start with how you respond to challenge. Instead of, I don't know how to do this, you say, this is where I grow. Instead of, this always happens to me, you say, I'm the kind of person who finds a way forward. Instead of, I can't focus, you say, my attention sharpens when the pressure rises. This is not pretending. This is command. This is choosing language that creates movement instead of friction. You're not lying to yourself. You're leading yourself. You're shifting from narration to creation. Every time you speak, your brain listens. Your nervous system adjusts. Your standards calibrate. So you don't just say what's easy. You say what aligns with your goals, what reinforces your standard, what makes your identity harder to shake. This also includes how you speak about others. Because the moment you speak in judgment, in criticism, in gossip, you dilute your discipline. You distract your mind. You focus on what's outside your control. And worst of all, you reinforce an identity that is reactive instead of grounded. So you raise the standard on all language. You eliminate vague speech. Kinda, maybe, we'll see, if I can. They're all back doors. They're exits. They leave room for doubt. And doubt, when repeated, becomes your ceiling. You replace them with clear, strong words. I will. I am. This gets done. I choose this. You start to notice how often you speak in escape, and you start choosing language that keeps you in alignment. You begin speaking to others as a leader. That doesn't mean barking orders. That doesn't mean dominating. It means using words that uplift, clarify, simplify. Words that don't add drama. Words that don't complain. Words that don't apologize for ambition. Because your language is your energy in motion. And the more precise you become, the more focused you feel. The more focused you feel, the more you act in alignment. And the more you act in alignment, the more quickly you rewire your mind for consistency. This isn't about sounding motivational. This is about sounding like someone who knows who they are, someone who commands their internal world, someone who knows that every time they speak, they are training their brain to either reinforce the future or recycle the past. And this is not about perfection. You will catch yourself slipping. You will say things that don't match your vision. That's okay. The goal is awareness, because once you hear it, you can change it. You can pause, you can correct, you can choose again. You do this every day, in the car, at the gym, during your morning routine, throughout your work. You make speaking strong, clear, grounded words a way of life. You become someone whose words match their goals. And the more you do this, the more your emotional state starts to follow. The more confident you feel, the more clarity you find, the more certain you become, not because you have all the answers, but because your words are no longer working against you. This is the daily work, the rewiring, the practice of replacing sloppy, reactive, vague speech with tight, elevated, powerful language. Because brainwashing is about saturation, and every word you speak is another drop in the bucket. So you speak like someone who's becoming. You speak like someone who's choosing. You speak like someone who has already drawn the line and said, this is the new me, and I'm done negotiating. The fifth daily habit to brainwash yourself for success is to anchor yourself in your future vision. Not once a year, not when you're inspired, not when you're broken, every day. Because the future you are building is either something you live with daily or something that fades into the background and gets buried by distraction. Most people do not fail because they lack potential. They fail because they lose connection to what they're building. They forget what they said they wanted. They stop seeing it. They stop feeling it. And without that connection, their behavior begins to drift. Their habits begin to weaken. Their standards begin to lower. Your brain is a survival machine. And if you do not keep your vision front and center, it will default to comfort, to familiarity, to safety. It will guide you to protect your current identity instead of building a new one. That's why you must give your brain a target, a reason, a future that is bigger than your current reality. Not once, daily, every morning, every night, every time you want to quit, you revisit your vision. You remember why you started. You remember who you are becoming. And this is not just goal setting. This is immersion. You saturate your nervous system with your future. You write it. You read it. You see it. You speak it. You feel it. Not like it might happen. Like it already belongs to you. You visualize it with intensity, with emotion, with clarity. You don't just see the house, the car, the numbers. You see the person, the habits, the language, the posture, the discipline. You don't imagine the lifestyle without imagining the work that made it real. Because that future isn't built by luck. It's built by repetition, by belief, by aligning your current behavior with future outcomes. And that alignment becomes automatic when your vision becomes familiar. This is where most people go wrong. They think vision is motivation, but it's not. It's structure. It's calibration. It's how you filter decisions. It's how you say no with confidence. It's how you choose challenge instead of comfort. It's how you lead when no one else is watching. Without a vision, discipline feels like punishment. But with a vision, discipline feels like alignment. The hard things start to feel like the right things because they are building something, and your brain starts to connect that effort to meaning. So you create a ritual. Every day, you pull your vision from the clouds into your body. You make it real. You see yourself living it, speaking it, working it, not someday. Now you train your subconscious to expect it, to crave it, to act in ways that reinforce it. You link the details to your habits. When you wake up early, you don't just say, I'm being disciplined. You say, this is the version of me that leads. When you train hard, you don't say, this is about fitness. You say, this is how I stay ready for the next level. You don't wait to feel aligned. You create alignment. You build the bridge, one thought at a time, one action at a time, one standard at a time. And every time you reinforce your vision, you weaken your past. Because your past doesn't disappear on its own. It only dissolves when your future becomes more emotionally powerful. And that power comes from immersion, from living inside your goal before it materializes, from choosing to believe before you see the proof. This is not fake. It's not delusion. It's neuroplasticity. It's how the brain works. It adapts to repetition. It rewires itself around what you feed it. And if you feed it vision, it starts to behave like the version of you that already has what you want. You don't wait for confidence. You rehearse it. You practice it. You activate it through visual input, through movement, through emotional connection. You feel the win before it happens. And then you move as if it's already inevitable. And when doubt shows up, and it will, you respond with repetition, not by arguing, not by spiraling, but by going right back to the image, right back to the behavior, right back to the vision that doesn't change when feelings do. That's how you brainwash yourself. You choose to think the same empowering thought so many times that it becomes stronger than the fear, stronger than the noise, stronger than the urge to stop. You must remember, the brain is not loyal to the truth. It is loyal to what is repeated. So you repeat what builds you. You repeat what aligns with your future. You build your mental GPS around where you're going, not where you've been. And over time, it becomes your new default. The old story feels foreign. The old behaviors feel heavy. The new ones feel like home because you've trained them, because you've chosen them, because you've brainwashed yourself to believe in something higher. Everything changes when you stop leaving your mind to chance. When you stop letting old patterns make decisions. When you stop letting the world dictate your self-image. When you stop negotiating with the identity you're trying to leave behind. And you start programming yourself deliberately, forcefully, daily, with thoughts, words, actions, and standards that reflect who you're becoming. That is brainwashing, not manipulation, not delusion. It's repetition with intention. It's exposure with purpose. It's feeding your mind what it needs to believe before the results show up, because results come last. Belief comes first. Identity comes first. Consistency comes first. And you only earn those things when you're willing to install them over and over, day after day, until they stop feeling like effort and start feeling like home. You are not a prisoner of your past beliefs. You are not stuck with old patterns. You are not obligated to carry the language, the stories, the limitations that were handed to you. You get to choose. You get to reprogram. You get to write new instructions for your brain and repeat them until your mind stops questioning and starts executing. That is your power. The discipline to lead your thoughts, the decision to choose your inputs, the clarity to reinforce the same standard until it becomes your new baseline. Not sometimes, every day. That's what makes the difference. Not talent, not hype, not moments of inspiration, but daily immersion in a standard that's too high to ignore. So you build the 5 habits. You own your mornings with clarity and direction. You filter your inputs to protect your mental environment. You reinforce your identity through precise language and consistent behavior. You speak with power, internally and externally, and you anchor yourself in your future until it becomes impossible not to act like it's already real. These are not suggestions. They are your operating system now. And the more you run them, the more they run you. The old doubts lose their weight. The old habits feel distant because now your mind is different, sharper, clearer, focused, aligned. Because now you're not reacting to life, you're building it. And you build it from the inside out, thought by thought, word by word, habit by habit. You brainwash yourself on purpose, for a purpose, with zero hesitation. And from that place, there is no ceiling.